Greetings and welcome back to Smartwatch Ticks. Yes, indeed, we have a package to open and take a look at. Inside of this wrapping, we are going to find something we've been waiting for a long time. Actually, February the 21st, over 4.5 months ago, we reviewed the prototype of what's in this box by a different company. Yep. It was the Kingware, if you recall that name. Yes, they're still around. Kingware KW98. Yeah. Well, LEMFO has taken the liberty to go ahead and release the production version of that watch under the name LEF1. And our great friends over at Banggood have slipped one out to us right away. I mean, literally right away. Before they even got them in, they had it on its way here. The LEMFO LEF1 is an Android 5.1 watch with these really interesting, somewhat connected but separated bands on the watch base, and it's got all this stuff going for it. Check it out. It's an 8 gigabyte watch with 512 megabyte RAM, 2G and 3G and nano card, and of course the AMOLED 1.4-inch screen, 400 by 400 pixel, what we've seen before, a typical 350 milliamp hour battery, and all of these different supported languages. Let's look inside, see what LEMFO has sent us. What we didn't know in the prototype unit was all about these bands. It was oh, that's nice. It was an interesting hint at the possibility of removable bands, but we weren't sure. And then it got all over the blogs and information that, believe it or not, there's still antennas in these bands. That's what they're saying. I mean, I don't know how. Look how thin that thing is. And we had hoped that these would be snaps so that you could snap it off and put different kind of bands on it. But as you can see, in the production unit, they're riveted on. So again, we don't have removable bands, but they're nice bands. They're a leather band and super flexible. Look at that, slides back and forth. If they've got wires and antennas in here, that's going to be a real trick. Wow. All right, let's I got so excited about the bands initially. I really wanted to see in the production unit if there's something different than in the prototype. And we'll continue. We'll look at all of that stuff. Let's take off the little cover that's on top of the watch. Now, it may have a little screen protector on there. I'm not sure. This one, there's no bubbles in it. If it's there, it looks really clean. I'll give it a try. Oftentimes, I find that sliding is a little sluggish, and I'll go ahead and take the plastic off so that I'm touching right on the glass. Makes it a lot easier for me. But that's just my own thing. So, we've got a nice band. Typical single connection with two things we can plug it into. On the bottom, we've got a charging connector, the diodes for the heart rate monitor, and an easy access, says LEMFO right there, cover that lets us get in to put in the nano SIM card. Yes, it's a standalone smartwatch, so you're going to need your own SIM card in order for this to work. But you don't need to take a screwdriver with you. So if you've got an easy access phone that you can get in and out with your SIM card, you can literally pop your SIM card out of your phone and open the cover and put it in your watch and continue on your way, making phone calls, sending and receiving text messages from your main phone number right off of the watch. Nice design, simple. This one's in black. One single button. Round display, and we will turn it on, I promise you. But first, let's look more deeply in the box to see what comes in a production unit. We've got technical support, service at lemfo.com. That's great that we've got watch companies now taking responsibility for helping you guys out. A welcome guide that says, "We'd love to hear from you. Best regards, customer support." Wow. Okay. I like that. And there's your contact, service at lemfo.com. Then, if that isn't enough, they've thrown in this really nice cable. I've got a few of these now. Every LEMFO watch I've got has come with them. And I literally replace all of my USB wires with these because they're really high quality. flexible, nice and long, and you could use them for everything. Of course, they'll work with the watch, but they can be used for charging your phone, whatever you'd like. Yay, I got another one. Actually, I needed another one right now. So, thanks, LEMFO. You go over there. Okay, we're going to have a user's manual, and then, in addition, we've got the screen protector that you can actually put on. So there may not be one on there. Sometimes they send an extra. We've got the typical charger. Now, notice that this thing was a micro USB. That's not used on the watch. This is just a bonus that came in the package. You're going to actually use this magnetic coupler that's in here, which is standard now. We're seeing this standard on many, many watches, and it real strong connects directly to the watch and plugs into your USB. So that's how you're going to charge it, using a standard wire, which is going to be available now, so you can have a second one at work if you want to, I'm sure, from many different companies. The user's manual, we always try to page through this because we don't have them available in PDF format, and you can freeze frame it on your screen and read it at your leisure. Hopefully it's all in focus. Keep an eye on that. And once again, as I mentioned, back on February 21st, 2017, the original prototype of this watch was out, and we were able to do a thorough review of that one. So if you want more detail than what you're going to see today, or complimentary information, be sure you check that video out. I'll have a link at the end of the video, and of course in the show notes down below. And it's basically, as far as we know, the same watch. Now, this is the production unit 4.5 months later, so it's probably got some updates, maybe some firmware changes, definitely, because it's from LEMFO now, and enhancements. But as far as the architecture, the design, and the layout of it, it's pretty much the same platform. So I'm going to charge this up for us. I'm going to load up the software for doing things like our Antutu test and all those things, and then I'll come back and we'll walk through this watch, see what it can do. So let's jump in and take a look at this thing. But before we do, in order to really see if there's been any changes over time, we need to call in the prototype. There we go, 4.5 months between this one and this one. Any difference? The bands look the same. The bodies look the same. In fact, physically, the only difference I can tell between the prototype and the production is in the cover over the SIM card. This says TC Watch, this says LEMFO. That's the place where they've customized it. But physically, it looks the same. Well, the band says TC Watch here as well, I guess. So the bands are a little bit different. This one has a bend to it, but it's been in its box. This one's straight because it's been out for a while. But if there's any differences worth noting, they're going to be when we turn it on, which is exactly what we want to do right now. Press and hold, and let them both boot up. Okay, wow, both really bright screens, almost completely washing out the camera. As you can see, LEMFO has inserted their own beginning in the watch on the right. The prototype has the standard Android boot-up process. Now, I have worked with both of them. I've charged them both up. That says starting apps. And I've loaded up a lot of our test software on both of them. And that's what we're going to do, is run through those tests after I show you quickly what's on board each of these watches. Here's some of Al Rod's watch faces on this one. This is, gosh, I'm not sure. I think this is another interesting watch face design. But what we'll do is go back to the stock watch faces and take a look at what those are like, and take a look at the layout on the watch. When you swipe to the right on both of them, let's see, this one's sluggish. Oh, there it goes. There is a new system version update from the original one. So we've got new firmware we can update on this one. But I want to show you the comparison between the original and the current one. Did I just sign in? A new device has accessed my account. So it's going through the notifications, and this is what they look like on the screen This one's probably tethered to my phone or to Wi-Fi. When you slide down, you get into this panel, which is basically the same between both of them. Come over here, and we have, this is even on low brightness right now. Interesting. The volume, silence. This is the raise your hand to see the time, the airplane mode, your data mode for cellular data, and your location services. I'm going to go ahead and turn that on because we're going to want to play with GPS later. This says low, medium, or high for your brightness. Bluetooth is off and Wi-Fi is on. So I guess it's not Bluetooth tethered. Those notifications are coming from within the watch itself, connected to Wi-Fi, telling me that I have an update. And one more. Our step count. You see how they've smoothed this all out on the production version. It's definitely nice and easy and smooth. And do I have the brightness? Yeah, I do. I have that display brightness control here. I'm going to dim that down quite a bit so you can see it a little bit better. So a different implementation, a softer glow to the step count in the LEMFO version of the watch than what we see here. And we go back to watch faces. And then if I scroll up, I get the weather information. If the weather is synchronized, which it is on here, and it shows you your location and all the weather going on in your area. And of course, when you're here, you can't scroll left or right. Nothing works. And we did left and right here. No, we haven't. We've only done the left to the notifications. And that's where we got this. And then we go to the right, and we get our apps, and we can't go any further to the right. Can we? Yes, we can. We go to the players. Okay. There's your music player, completely redone. This is the stock view of the music player. All right, and that's it. And, okay, that's about it. It says no music down here. I don't know if you get a title down here or not. I don't believe we have any music on either one of them. No. Okay, so we're going to come back to the apps. Let's take a quick look at the stock apps. First of all, you see the display layout is different in the LEMFO. It's linear here, still one by one. Contacts, phone, messaging. Contacts, phone, and messaging. Then we go into our systems, our settings. Then you have a browser, a calendar, and a clock. There's your settings. We have remote capture on this one, on the original prototype. Then browser, calendar, and clock. So remember that. We had a remote capture on this one. Maybe that'll show up later. Then we've got gallery. Here we've got camera and then gallery. All right. There's no camera on this watch, is there? Interesting. So they've cleaned up the interface to remove camera, not to confuse you because you don't have a camera. Gallery, music with a different kind of icon, sound recorder. There's our remote control on this one. It's this is remote control for what? Disconnected. Oh, this is remote control for music, the remote control music player, as opposed to playing the music on board. Then we have sound recorder here, and a file manager. And then health. We have find me on this one, and health is down here. Then weather. Then a voice search. Then the Play Store, and look how they've totally changed the icons for the Google Play Store. I mean, you can't even tell anymore that, wow. I mean, Google, you know, on all your phones, implementations, it's been standardized, the look of the icon for the Play Store, but it's all over the place here. There's your Google Maps, believe it or not. And then you're getting into custom apps. This is what I've installed here. Connect phone. This is a stock app on this one. And then you get into display brightness, and that's different on here. So from here on, they're my installed apps, and this is the last of all of the custom apps that came with the watch. So there's a little bit of different stuff that we're seeing in the way they are portrayed, and there's probably a little bit different in the settings. We have your typical sound, which is where you have the control of all of the different volume levels for media. Oh, this is always a challenge. There we go. Wow, that's really low on the production unit. Interesting. Your alarm volume. Come on. Ah, don't hear a thing. Do we hear something when we do this? No, it's just turning it up. And ring volume. You know, I think I've got the both of them in silent right now. Wow. All right, you don't need to sit through this. I'm going to fix it and pick it back up. Yes, I do. They're both in silent mode. So we're going to go over here so you'll have some sound, right? And now into settings. And into sound. And adjust the sound again. All right, that's more reasonable. So you have also the ability to change your default ringtones for both the watch and notifications, and vibration capability as well. So all of that's the same. Your display information, in your brightness level, your sleep time, your font size, and look, you have an app adaptation capability that's new. So that's an enhancement over 4 months. Don't know exactly what that does, but you can turn it on and off. If anybody knows, let us know in your comments down below, and we'll make sure they're in the show notes and people can read up on what app adaptation is all about. Then we get into the app list style. And here we have list or round. And you notice the implementation of list is curved on the new version. And it's straight here. If we go to round just to see what the difference looks like, come back out of here. There. Okay. That looks identical on both of them. Of course, the icons are slightly different. And is this our settings? Yeah. Okay. But I like it linear or list, so we're going to switch back to that. Then you've got your connection. This is where we have Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, Wi-Fi hotspot, airplane mode, GPS, if you have the SIM card in it, all that's there. Mobile assist. We don't have mobile assist. We have gesture we go into in the settings here. This was the QR code you needed to scan to tether this app, or this watch, to the app. So mobile assistant appears here, but it's not yet on the production version. Gesture. This is the screen on raising, and you can turn on or off the pedometer step count, so you can use less battery, which is nice if you don't need it. You also have a power savings mode, which comes in here and shows you your power usage, what apps are using the most power. Then we get to language and input, and our language is English. Wow, it's getting dim here now, huh? I'm going to have to change the brightness. Let's do that real quick. Come back here. And go to medium. Much better than the low, right? It has to do with how the sunshine is shining in. And when we started this, it was a bit darker. Okay, language and input. And I want to go into languages. This is where we can show you, and on this one I can brighten it with the display brightness, which is a special app. I always install it. By the way, I don't see it in the Google Play Store anymore. I've posted my version of it with a link to it on a Google Drive up on several of the different videos. If you like that little slider on your watch, it's called display brightness. Okay, these are the languages. See if they've added any or taken any away over time. Looks the same to me from what I can tell. And we're running English. You have a keyboard. You can also install alternate keyboards if you want to. And this one has Google Voice typing in there as well in the production version, as well as the watch IME. And then there's your voice input and your text-to-speech output, which usually uses this little Pico voice, and it sounds like this.
This is an example of speech synthesis in English.
Really bright, really loud in the prototype.
This is an example of speech synthesis in English.
Identical in the production. So not a lot of changes there. Looks like there's been minor tweaks so far. Your overall date and time is the same in both, where you can use automatic date and time zone, set your 12 or 24-hour time, resetting the equipment, uninstalling applications, and then finally, about watch. This is where we get the details of what we're looking at here. Okay, this is the KW98. Nope, it's calling it the 88 because they were using the baseline 88 software or firmware, which is why it said camera. You had the camera app. This one, of course, is not that way anymore. It's revised. It's the LEF1. They're both running Android 5.1 with that security patch, that bright baseband version. And here's where we get the fun. The Kernel version, you see this is January the 9th, 2017. This is January 12th, 2017. Oh, sorry, this is June, not January. June 9th in the new version. And then there's a build number. Okay. Now, both of these are on Wi-Fi, and they're all set up, and we should be able to go in and check for wireless upgrade. Oh, and here's a great difference. You see how I have it round here and in the square here. And that's that feature that when you press and hold, you can change it right up here. That is true for all third-party apps. This one says we have something to download. This one is checking. Can't tell if it's downloading or not. Wireless upgrade. All right, we'll let it go. Well, I've messed around with both of them for a while now, and this one, although it says there's an update available, it's not letting me actually download it. It checks, says it's there, but it won't download. And this one is just spinning. It doesn't go anywhere. So my guess is that the server is down. Yeah, there's a plastic on both of these that makes it sluggish for me to move. So I'm going to peel that off. This one just goes ahead and spins. And this one, sometime a while ago, got the information there's a download, but it's not able to access the server. And it may be the same server that these guys connect to, so have to try it again later. With that said, let's bail out of here. We've done everything in here and looked at all of the information. And that's about watch, which is the end of settings. Notice this is still sluggish, the old one. And we've gone ahead and looked at all of the installed apps in here. So now we're ready to start the actual system testing. When we get down beyond all of this to something like this one, the ADA64, that's where we'll see whatever real hardware differences there are between the two. Antutu. Yeah, you'd know it'd be at the very bottom, huh? All right, I'm going to put these in the box, make it easier to see. And we're going to go into System. Wow, tiny. All right, sorry about that. Here's the information, and what we really want to look at down here is when we get into fastest serial number, all of this stuff. There's the overall available memory, 123 megabytes, 187. I have different numbers of apps installed, so that can account for that. But look for the total that's available. Total storage. The prototype had limited memory on that. This one's got the full complement of 8 gigabytes. So internal storage free was very small. And of course, it's a good, healthy amount on the production unit. But of course, the prototype was the prototype. They just threw in enough memory to test it out. Anything else here? Tells us about the other information, I guess. Our CPUs, here we go, okay. Quad core, there they are running. Some screen information should basically be the same between them. Telephony for what you've got installed. And Wi-Fi. Okay, and that's our AIDA 64. Now everybody wants to know about the darn benchmark testing, right? Which is the Antutu 3D. But we can't use that one. We got to go to that one. I really like this semicircle way of doing it. Much better. This is nice. Look at that. Isn't that smooth? Definitely I'm seeing an improvement in the software 3D Bench, and the Benchmark is the actual app. Definite improvement in the responsiveness of the production unit. It also looks like the speed is faster too. Well, we're about to find out, aren't we? Now, this is interesting how they look slightly different. This is a larger circle, that's small, and I think the fonts are set to the same size. But look at the top, the distance across the screen it takes. It's supposed to be the same. I don't know. All right, we're going to run the test. And this is going to take a long time, but I want to first run it through to the point to see if it's going to do the actual 3D graphics or not, which happens right now. And if so, we'll leave that on the screen. And if not, we'll just put it in pause and jump you ahead to the very end so you see the end results. Okay, it's loading in that big graphic file in both of them. Yeah, I guess I could turn it sideways, huh? No, it didn't run it. Didn't run it on either of them. Obviously wouldn't run it on this one because of the low memory. This one had 8 gigabytes, but you know what? It's probably because it only has a half a gigabyte of RAM, and you need at least 1 gigabyte pretty much to run that graphics test. All right, it's screaming ahead now. We will come back at the very end when the numbers settle down and we have a result. Here we go. Our numbers, drum roll please. Wow, look at that. The watch that has less memory actually in it has slightly faster than the brand new production unit. But I mean, we're talking really, really close, and it could be a function of all sorts of different things. Maybe a little bit more background apps are running in the new one than in the original. But we're coming in good. 15,000, that's not as good as the 16 gigabyte machines that run over 20,000, but it's way better than the Android 4.4 dual core watches that were down around 10,000. The main thing is watching how smooth the operations are on both of them. And that tells you a little bit about how easy it is for each of them to operate within the confines of a tiny little watch platform. Oh, we got a few more things we can try. Here is a Wi-Fi signal strength, which, of course, since I'm here on Wi-Fi right now, really close by is going to be really, really high at 100%. But what I can do is take these outside, walk as far from the server as I can, or from the router, and see if they fall off at about the same time or not. We'll do that, and I'll be right back. Well, this is interesting. When I took them both outside, the prototype was always better connected, stronger signal the entire test. No matter which hand I held it in, I tried them on my wrist, I tried backwards and forwards. This was always at least 10 to 15% higher than this one. They still got about 200 feet, 250 feet before they conked out at about 20%. But this one was better overall, the prototype. There's less strength to the Wi-Fi on the production LEMFO. Not that that's a big issue. If you're close by, like I am here, I just ran the speed test on both watches, and as you can see, I'm pulling in 60 megabytes here, 54 megabytes here in terms of download, and the upload speed is good too on my Wi-Fi Connect. So I wouldn't be too concerned about it. As long as you're relatively close to your Wi-Fi, you should do just fine. A strong signal, you're going to get great throughput. But it did test out better for the prototype. All right, moving on. Our next test is to take the SIM card and put it inside, right, popping off the cover, and checking it out. I've turned off Wi-Fi, and we're going to do a speed test check on data throughput on 3G with the prototype watch now, and see what kind of signals we're getting. Now, I already tried this on a phone call, and it worked fine. It made a phone call. I could easily hear it and speak, and there we go. Wow, super slow. That's like 2G speeds, but we know AT&T 2G network is shut down, so this is actually 3G that we're getting. I'm getting way better upload than actual download. That doesn't seem right. I'm going to try it one more time. We should be getting at least 2 to 3. No, it's just barely moving. 2 to 3 megabytes download I would expect, and a little over 1 upload. All right, 1 3/4. Again, it's nebulous. Every single time you try it, it's different. Okay, for benchmarking purposes, in the original prototype watch, those are the results. Now let's switch over to the brand new LEMFO watch. Wow, this is not good news at all. Okay, this is the LEMFO watch. And just like the other one, I put the SIM card in, expecting everything to work just fine, right? Well, it doesn't. And this doesn't make any sense at all, because we're just talking the same network topology, the same GSM network with the same frequencies as far as I know between the prototype and the final production LEMFO watch, but it doesn't work. You're about to see. I've checked everything. I went through, and yeah, there has been a change in the way they define the APNs. Remember, the software firmware from the prototype KW98 is like the KW88, and when you look at the APN, it just says singular, what is it, 310 or something? Anyway, it's the basic, but you just plug and play, and it works. Now, on the brand new one, if I go into my phone and I try to make a call, I think that's enough digits, and I hit call. Where'd it go? To place a call, enter a valid number. Oh, all right. I don't know, 254754714 5. Let's see if that one works. We attempt to make a call. And it comes back with cellular network not available, just in making a phone call. And if I go back here and I come down, it says I've got 3G connectivity. Crazy, huh? Not only that, but of course you saw me do the speed test. I can't do speed test because I can't acquire the network. So for some reason, the exact same SIM card I used in this one is not working in this one. That sets up a real issue because this was a prototype KW88. Kingware makes 98, sorry. Kingware makes a KW98. This is a LEMFO LEF1, and there's another one by Makibes, and they're supposed to be the same, but obviously they're different. So two things. First of all, we're learning that you got to check, at least for cellular connectivity, right? And making phone calls and data. You got to check the actual model of the family of watches. And I will now attempt to try to get in the other versions, flavors of this exact same thing and test them out to see if they will work on AT&T. And again, it's one person, me, in one location here, using one SIM card with one carrier, AT&T. Your situation could be totally different. Yours might work in here and not work in there. I don't know. But what I'm telling you now, for the sake of this in-depth review of the LEMFO LEF1, it does not work on AT&T 3G for phone calls or for data. Let's move on. So we've tested the Wi-Fi, we've tested the cellular, and now we're going to take a look at the GPS. To do that, we use this thing called engineering mode, MTK. We're going to come in here. Now, this is a good app to show you the difference between these two. Notice how much larger the font is on the prototype than it is on the LEF1. Really tiny writing. If you like small, this is great. If you want bigger, this is great. Of course, you can't get the prototype, but who knows? We'll have to see what a KW98 does if it's got the same kind of layout as this. But I've gone in everywhere in settings where you can change the font in the display for small, normal, or large, and it does not change this in third-party apps like these. So there's something else very different at a very root level, as you can see here. I'm going into location services. I'm going into GPS, which is off the screen on this one. I have to scroll down here to see it on this one. And GPS is off. Now I'm going to turn it on, and on. Then I'm going over here to view and view. And now we have both of these watches attempting to acquire GPS signal. This is not the first time I've done this. In fact, as you know, it's been a long time since I've had a review up. I've spent about 3 or 4 days working on that cellular issue. And of course, in that time, I also tested this out for you. And I'm going to tell you the results now because I can't show it to you. I have to literally take these things outside and acquire signal. When you try to get a signal right off the bat indoors on both watches, it doesn't really do that. It just can't. And that's kind of typical on a lot of these. But when I take them outdoors, the prototype locked up right away the first time. The new one didn't lock up at all. It took it about 3 or 4 minutes before it locked up. But it had never been hooked up before. This one had. After that, I tried it several times, and they both came on pretty much right away as soon as I walked outdoors. Then I brought them back indoors, and I left them sitting on the table with a 5-minute timeout. They stayed connected. I let them die out completely, the watches. I turned them back on. They were still connected. So they've got solid GPS in them. They're just not hooking up right now for you just to see on screen. But when they hook up, they lock and they hold. So I'm going to say there's no difference in the GPS capabilities of the prototype or the LEF1, and it seems like you won't have any issues related to GPS location information. But once again, notice the font size difference that you see between the screens. This one is giving you larger lettering than this one is. They're identical screens, 400 by 400 pixels, same pixel density. So there's something happening in the software or firmware to create that difference. Okay, what next? Well, we've pretty much covered all of the technical stuff I wanted to throw at you, and you've seen in a lot of the other reviews things like the display brightness slider and the floating toucher dot that you can put a little mini launcher on the top of the screen, a whole bunch of other apps. So we're not going to go into that either. We're basically just giving you the overview of the differences in these watches, of which watch faces is another category. So I've stripped out all the custom watch faces, and I've put in I've left it in just the stock watch faces. Once again, by way of a quick view, here are the stock watch faces that come with the prototype. I won't bother going into them because you can't get these anyway. It's a prototype watch, not for sale. We can compare if we get a KW98 to see what changes there are, if any, in the watch faces. But in the meantime, these are the stock ones that came installed with the test firmware, including this one, which I understand is being discontinued for a variety of reasons. And when you do firmware updates on your watch, no matter which one you have, if you have this really cool one, there's a good chance, poof, it's going to go away. And as far as I know, nobody's really extracted it and made it available, as a developer promoted watch face, but it might be out there. If you happen to know how you can get that one, let us know in the show notes. And as long as it's clean and legal with the right attributions and homages and recognition, and it's not being sold or commercially of somebody else's product, I'll gladly put the link on there. And if you lose it in a firmware update, perhaps you can install it as a custom watch face. Now, you'll notice over here, we get into these ones that have the little dashes by them, which means you could remove them. And they came because of going into the server with the plus sign. I'm going to come back and talk about those after. Oh, that's the cover for this one. After I go through and show you what we've got on here. Kind of a little tricky to get in. You got to get it in position. It's a rubber grommet in there. And once you do and you snap it down, which is why I really question waterproofness on these. There's, if you get it just right, you're probably okay for sweat, but I still wouldn't dunk that underwater just because of that cover. The rest of it might be sealed nicely. Oh yeah, that's what you see when you tilt the watch. It comes up with the digital display on both of these. It does not go to the actual watch face itself. However, when it comes up, if you touch it, you can get access. Let's go through the actual production watch faces that you're going to get if you buy a LEF1. These are what they look like. This is what ships with the watch. I know, boring. You've seen a lot of these before, but you're going to see some new ones. Your step count, your battery level, your heart rate, all those typical sensors are available, and they're showing up on some of these. Something flashed down there. Different font faces. I'm starting to put these at the very end instead of toward the beginning, because I know a lot of you aren't that interested in every single watch face, and it was eating up a lot of time before we would even get to the apps. That's actually pretty cool, the deep blue and the light blue. Very elegant. Have we shown you this on yet? I don't think we put it on. There you go. The way the bands work, they're nice and flexible, so it comes straight down. It doesn't bow way out and over like you've seen some of the other watches with stiff bands. The fact it's got that flexibility there lets it hang nicely on your arm, but it is a thick watch still. Yeah. All in all, it's still got the battery underneath the case and then the watch itself. And again, the physical layout is going to be the same amongst all of these of the same class, the LEF1, and like I mentioned, the KW98, of course, and then another one, a Makibas which we'll see if we can get that one as well. Here we go. Now you're getting into some creativity. Look at this watch face. This is stock, folks. This is coming stock installed on the watch with a lot of things moving in here. A lot of information. Not a good one for reading, but a fun one for just eye candy with all of the flash that's going on. This one we've seen before as a stock watch face. It just says smart and it has the day of the week up there. I can't read what's going on there. Hopefully you guys can. I'm going to have to get stronger glasses, I guess, to do this. That one says Smartwatch. And we've seen this one as a stock watch too, and that has some moving gears going on. And the combination lock type that is showing with the blue and red hands to time. Then the little swirly one. What does that say? I know after editing I can probably go back and blow it up on the screen and read it. But you guys can read it. I'm sure you can. You're on YouTube. Okay, all these are stock. But there's a couple toward the end I want to show you. Oh, here we go. Now we're getting into some new territory. Okay, this is different. Look at this one. There we go. How research. And we have a spinning person on the screen. A radar type of a display twirling down there. Something off the edge right there. I don't know what that is. And it's not an active button. Of course, none of these displays have active buttons like you see on the Android Wear type watches. Then there's this one. Man, I sat down and tried to figure out what in the world is this. Who are those characters? What's that pyramid? Is that the all-seeing eye on there and with a bow tie? Is that, what's his name, Bill Nye, the science guy? I don't know. Interesting. Look at all those words. Yeah, that's a stock watch. I vaguely remember seeing this floating by a long time ago as a custom-designed watch. And I wondered about it at that point, but now it's out here as a stock watch. Here's another one. Kind of an interesting, lot of open space up there. They could put digital time if they wanted to, I guess. But it's got some gauges and meters and stuff. And now we get to the little minus sign on here with a selection of 4 of them that I downloaded for a couple of reasons. One, to show you that the server that both of these go into is identical. All of these watch faces are there, and they're all in the same order. They show up exactly the same. So that's interesting. And we'll also know if we try the other companies' models, whether or not they tie into the same server. However, okay, that keeps flashing up there. See that? Huh. There's some differences. Look at this one. There's a little red hand on this one. It's not there on that one. Now, we would think that the clock engines would be identical, that the code, because it came from the same server, would be identical, and that it would render exactly the same way on both of these watches. So there's something else different in the software that is causing the rendering of specific characteristics on clock skins to not work, like the circles with the information for steps and battery percentage are not showing up on this one, on the prototype. Interesting, huh? Here's another one. You see any novelty there? There's the day of the week and a window. I think these were identical. I just wanted to show you can have the rotating day of the week there. And then there's this one, which we always like to test out. Can it support 24-hour time? Because we've noticed the clock engine is working differently on certain watches that won't allow it to render 24-hour time. Now, remember, it's 11:18 in the morning, and look at the time. It's 11:18 on both of these. However, that hour hand should be down here next to the sun. The hour hand should be pointing a little after the 11. It's not. It's pointing a little before the 23, it looks like. It's not even after the 23, which would be 11, between 11 and 12 at the very top. So the 24-hour watch displays are not working on the prototype or the updated LEF1. They do work, I think, on the Now and the #1 watches. Now, watch this. When you get over to this last page, if you hit the plus sign, that's where you can look at all of the other custom watch or server-supplied watch faces and pick which ones you want to download. But on the new one, there's a new implementation, and the guys over at the Pro boards, particularly Pablo 11, have worked really long and hard for that little thing to be put on here. This wipes out the data in the launcher and lets it rebuild the data file of all of the watches in the order that they're installed, so you don't get a crash on the watch. The old software, you didn't have that, and if you installed things from your computer, sometimes it wouldn't work right. You'd get a black one, you press on it, and it would hang up the watch, and you'd have to actually flash the firmware to get out of it. Now all you got to do is touch that button, and lickety-split, almost in an instant, it wiped everything out and re-indexed all the watch faces and went back to the very first one. And that is a really, really nice asset that we're hoping to see in all the implementations of the firmware from all the different companies as they update. Bad news, you might lose this watch face. Good news, you might get that refresh button. Okay, everybody, that's it for today. You have been taking a long, solid, good look at the Banggood supplied LEMFO LEF1, which is an Android 5.1 watch that's sporting 8 gigabytes with 512 megabytes of RAM. Not the fastest new 16 gigabyte machines we're seeing coming, but nonetheless a decent one. I'm still a little leery about that 512 though. Let me share this with you. Remember, this one came with about 4 gigabytes of memory, about 4 gigabytes, and this had the 8 gigabytes in there. When you have a watch that has a half a gigabyte of available RAM, in a sense, misnomer of the RAM. There's the RAM that the processor uses, to run the watch, and then there's the RAM that they talk about, which is really internal memory for storing apps. And this one, the prototype, had a more robust internal partition, and I could put all the apps you saw on it. This one, the commercial one, doesn't. It has 512 megabytes available for storing apps, and you run out of that space quickly, even though you got 8 gigabytes to work with. Be careful when you're getting watches that have less than 1 gigabyte RAM specified. If it's internal memory that they're really talking about, you can do a lot with that extra 512 megabytes. But if it's strictly 512, well, for example, I had to uninstall Antutu benchmark testing and the supporting 3D module and everything just to get speed tests to load up here. Alphabetically, it was getting down to the S's, and it wouldn't load because I was out of memory for just putting testing apps on here. So that could be a complication. But by way of summary, let me tell you once again that the LEF1 is a released version of an original Kingware KW98, and it has some pluses and minuses. Good news is it's got a way to make sure you're not going to crash the watch if you install watch faces, custom watch faces. That's that little circle we just went over. Bad news is if you plan on using a SIM card in it, at least in the US, using AT&T 3G, it doesn't work. It shows it should be working, but it's not hooking up right. It could be an issue with just the watch. I can't tell for sure. We're going to try and evaluate other similar watches by different companies to see if that's systemic, endemic, or just a pain. So we'll get to that. In the meantime, if you really like this watch, and remember it's got a little bit smaller writing on the screen so you can see more on it, You can check the show notes down below, pick it up at a decent price. If there's coupons available, we will have that for you. And stay tuned, subscribe, give us a thumbs up if you haven't, because we want to come back with more of these kind of watches to show you and compare very soon. All right, and sorry for the long delay in getting this up. I just really wanted to try to solve that cell connection, but I couldn't. All right, we'll see you again soon.